not trying to. Why are you so worried about this weight loss stuff? Calm the hell down. I was just asking, why you been losing weight?
I asked Justin to meet me for lunch because dealing with this has been a little bit much. I don't really know what's going on, and right now I don't really know how to fix it.
The morning air outside the county courthouse felt heavier than usual. Reporters lined the sidewalks. Cameras pointed toward the entrance as curious fans gathered behind metal barriers. Everyone wanted answers. For weeks, online rumors had spread about growing tension between Josh Efird and Mama June, but nobody expected the situation to become this serious. Black SUVs slowly arrived one after another. Security guards guided people toward the entrance, while photographers shouted questions from every direction. The courthouse steps became the center of attention as Josh Efird stepped out first, wearing a dark navy suit with a calm but serious expression. He did not stop to speak. He simply nodded politely and continued walking toward the entrance. A few minutes later, Mama June arrived surrounded by close family supporters. She wore a light gray blazer and sunglasses, keeping her head down while cameras flashed endlessly around her. Even though she tried to remain composed, the pressure of the moment could clearly be seen across her face. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere was tense but quiet. Family members sat on opposite sides of the room. Nobody spoke more than necessary. Even the audience seated in the back seemed nervous about what would happen next. The judge entered precisely at 9 o'clock. "Court is now in session," the clerk announced. Josh sat beside his attorney, carefully reviewing documents stacked neatly in front of him. Across the room, Mama June whispered something to her legal team before folding her hands together. The case itself was not only about disagreements within the family. According to several people close to them, deeper issues involving trust, financial responsibility, and private promises had slowly built up over time. Small misunderstandings had eventually turned into a major conflict neither side could avoid anymore. The judge looked around the courtroom calmly. "This court expects professionalism and respect from everyone involved," he said firmly. Both legal teams agreed. The first hour focused mostly on background information. Lawyers carefully explained the timeline of events that had reportedly led to the disagreement. Although many details remained private, one thing became obvious very quickly. Emotions had been building for a long time behind the scenes. Josh's attorney stood first. "My client attempted to resolve these matters privately for months," she explained. He hoped communication and mutual understanding would prevent this situation from reaching court. Mama June's legal representative responded moments later. "This family has experienced years of public attention and pressure. Miscommunication and emotional strain have affected many relationships involved." The courtroom remained silent. As testimony began, several previously unknown details started surfacing. According to statements presented during the hearing, disagreements reportedly began after business decisions connected to media appearances and family-related opportunities created confusion about responsibilities and agreements. Josh maintained a calm demeanor while listening carefully. Occasionally, he took notes or quietly spoke to his attorney. Meanwhile, Mama June appeared emotional at times but remained respectful throughout the proceedings. Outside the courthouse, fans refreshed social media pages, constantly waiting for updates. Headlines appeared every few minutes, each one more dramatic than the last. Yet inside the courtroom, the reality felt far more personal than sensational. This was not just another celebrity dispute. It was a family conflict that had slowly grown too large to ignore. During a short recess, reporters gathered near the courthouse cafeteria hoping someone would speak publicly. Most family members avoided questions entirely. However, one close family source quietly told reporters that everyone involved still cared deeply about each other despite the ongoing tension. "People think this is all hatred," the source said softly. "But it's more complicated than that." Back inside the courtroom, the afternoon session became even more intense. Josh's attorney presented several documents connected to financial discussions that allegedly caused disagreements within the family. While no illegal activity was suggested, the paperwork revealed confusion regarding expectations, verbal promises, and future plans tied to public projects. The judge carefully reviewed every document. Mama June's legal team responded by emphasizing the emotional pressure created by fame and constant online attention. They argued that misunderstandings had grown larger because private conversations repeatedly became public discussions online. At one point, the judge asked both sides whether reconciliation outside court was still possible. The room became completely silent. Josh looked down briefly before answering carefully. "I never wanted things to reach this point," he admitted. "I only wanted clarity and honesty." Across the room, Mama June appeared emotional hearing those words. "I care about my family," she said quietly, "no matter what people online think." Several audience members exchanged glances. For the first time that day, the tension inside the courtroom seemed to soften slightly. But the calm moment did not last long. Late in the afternoon, a surprise witness was introduced unexpectedly by Josh's legal team. The witness claimed to have first-hand knowledge about several private conversations connected to the dispute. Reporters immediately rushed to update their breaking news coverage as whispers spread throughout the courtroom. The witness explained that months earlier, attempts had been made to settle disagreements privately during family meetings. However, according to the testimony, communication repeatedly broke down because trust between certain family members had weakened over time. Mama June's attorney quickly challenged parts of the testimony, arguing that emotional memories could sometimes become unreliable under stress. The judge listened carefully, without showing emotion. As the hearing approached its final hour, exhaustion could be seen on nearly every face in the room. Even reporters typing nonstop throughout the day looked drained by the emotional atmosphere surrounding the case. Then came the biggest moment of the day. Josh's attorney revealed that additional evidence would be presented during the next hearing, evidence she described as important clarification regarding private agreements and conversations. Immediately, reporters began whispering excitedly among themselves. What exactly was this new evidence? Would it change the direction of the case entirely? The judge announced that proceedings would continue the following morning. Court is adjourned. The sound of the gavel echoed loudly across the room. As everyone slowly stood, Josh quietly gathered his papers while avoiding the cameras waiting outside. Mama June remained seated for several seconds longer, appearing emotionally overwhelmed before finally standing beside her legal team. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted endless questions once again. Neither side answered. But as the courthouse doors closed behind them, one thing became very clear. The battle between Josh Efird and Mama June was only beginning. Rain clouds covered the courthouse skyline the following morning, creating a colder atmosphere than the day before. News vans once again filled the parking area while reporters prepared for another dramatic day inside the courtroom. Overnight, social media had exploded with theories about the important clarification Josh's legal team promised to reveal. By 8 o'clock, people had already formed lines outside the building. Some supporters carried signs defending Mama June, while others quietly supported Josh. Security officers carefully managed the growing crowd, making sure tensions outside did not rise too high before proceedings even began. Inside, the courtroom felt more serious than before. Josh arrived early with his attorney and sat quietly reviewing notes. Unlike the previous day, he looked more focused and emotionally prepared. Across the room, Mama June entered slowly beside her legal team. She acknowledged a few familiar faces, but avoided eye contact with the audience. The judge entered promptly. Court is now back in session. The atmosphere instantly tightened. Josh's attorney stood first. "Your Honor," she began calmly, "today we will present information that provides necessary context regarding the breakdown of communication between the parties involved." She then introduced a collection of printed emails, text conversations, and meeting schedules connected to family business discussions from the previous year. The courtroom remained silent as documents were handed forward. According to the attorney, the materials showed repeated attempts by Josh to organize private discussions before matters escalated publicly. Several conversations reportedly focused on future plans involving media appearances, family branding opportunities, and financial expectations tied to joint projects. Again, no illegal behavior was suggested. Instead, The documents painted a picture of growing confusion and emotional frustration between family members trying to balance personal relationships with public attention. One particular message immediately drew attention inside the courtroom. In the message, Josh allegedly wrote, "I just want everyone to understand each other before this becomes bigger than it needs to be." The statement seemed to affect several people emotionally, including some seated in the audience. Mama June's attorney quickly responded. "These messages show concern," he argued, "but they do not prove wrongdoing or intentional harm by my client." The judge nodded thoughtfully. For the next hour, both sides carefully discussed timelines connected to canceled meetings, delayed responses, and disagreements over responsibilities. What once appeared online as a sudden public conflict now seemed far more complicated in reality. The case was becoming less about anger and more about broken communication. Still, emotions remained high. During testimony, Josh explained how difficult it became trying to protect family relationships while also managing growing public speculation. Every private conversation somehow became public discussion, he said carefully. That pressure changes everything. Mama June listened quietly without interrupting. At one point, the judge directly asked her whether fame had affected the family's ability to solve problems privately. She paused before answering. "Yes," she admitted softly. "Sometimes people stop talking honestly when cameras are always around." The courtroom grew quiet again. Even reporters typing nonstop seemed briefly affected by the honesty of the moment. But the calm atmosphere shifted once more when another witness was introduced. This witness had reportedly worked closely with a family during several media-related projects. According to the testimony, multiple misunderstandings developed because expectations were discussed informally rather than through clear written agreements. People assumed everyone understood each other, the witness explained. But assumptions eventually created frustration. The testimony appeared important because it supported arguments from both sides simultaneously. Josh's team argued that confusion caused emotional and financial stress. Mama June's team argued that the problems were never intentional. For the first time, the case no longer seemed focused on choosing one side over another. Instead, it revealed how years of pressure, fame, and unresolved misunderstandings slowly damaged trust within the family. Outside the courthouse, media headlines continued growing more dramatic. Some outlets described the hearing as explosive. Others called it heartbreaking. But inside the courtroom, the reality felt deeply personal. Late in the afternoon, tensions rose again after Mama June's attorney introduced evidence of his own. He presented messages showing attempts by Mama June to reconnect privately with family members before the legal dispute became public. One message reportedly read, "I don't want this family divided forever." The statement changed the emotional tone inside the room immediately. Josh lowered his eyes briefly while listening. Several audience members appeared emotional. The judge allowed a short recess before continuing. During the break, reporters gathered near courthouse hallways hoping to hear reactions from either side. Nobody spoke publicly, but observers noticed that family members who previously avoided each other were now at least standing in the same areas without visible hostility. It was a small but noticeable change. When court resumed, the discussion shifted toward the future. The judge asked both legal teams whether mediation remained possible before a final ruling would eventually be considered. Josh's attorney answered first. "My client remains open to respectful resolution." Mama June's attorney agreed. "My client also hopes healing is still possible." Those statements immediately caught the attention of everyone present. Could the situation actually move toward peace? Or was another major conflict still waiting ahead? Before the session ended, the judge reviewed plans for the following hearing. Additional testimony would reportedly focus on financial expectations connected to upcoming media opportunities and private agreements discussed within the family months earlier. The announcement instantly reignited tension. Reporters exchanged excited looks. Everyone understood the next hearing could become the most important one yet. As proceedings ended for the day, Josh slowly stood and organized his documents again. This time, however, he briefly looked across the courtroom toward Mama June. For a second, neither side spoke. But the anger visible on the first day seemed slightly different now. Less explosive. More emotional. Mama June quietly nodded once before turning toward the exit with her legal team. Outside, cameras flashed endlessly as both sides left the courthouse separately under heavy security. Questions echoed through the crowd. Will the family reconcile? Are more secrets coming? Can this relationship still be repaired? Nobody answered. Yet as storm clouds darkened the evening sky above the courthouse, one feeling remained impossible to ignore. The battle was no longer only about conflict. It was becoming a fight to decide whether trust inside the family could ever truly return again. The third morning of the court proceedings brought even larger crowds than before. By sunrise, reporters had already gathered outside the courthouse entrance, preparing for what many believed could become the turning point of the entire case. Online discussions had reached another level overnight. Fans debated every detail from the previous hearings. Some believed reconciliation was possible, while others expected the situation to grow even more intense. Video clips from courtroom entrances spread rapidly across social media, and news channels continued calling the dispute one of the most emotional celebrity family conflicts of the year. Inside the courthouse, however, the atmosphere felt quieter than expected. The emotional weight of the previous 2 days had clearly affected everyone involved. Josh Efird entered first once again, dressed in a charcoal gray suit. His expression remained calm, but exhaustion could now be seen across his face. He quietly greeted his attorney before taking his seat. A few moments later, Mama June entered with her legal team. Unlike earlier hearings, she appeared more reflective than defensive. She carried a notebook in her hands and occasionally wrote down thoughts while waiting for proceedings to begin. At exactly 9 o'clock, the judge entered the courtroom. Court is now in session. The room fell completely silent. Today's hearing would focus heavily on financial expectations tied to upcoming media opportunities and family-related business discussions that allegedly became a major source of conflict. Josh's attorney began carefully. Your Honor, today we intend to demonstrate how unclear expectations and increasing public pressure gradually damaged communication between family members. She then introduced several documents connected to project planning discussions from earlier months. These included schedules, proposed appearances, email exchanges, and draft agreements related to future media opportunities. Again, no criminal activity or illegal behavior was suggested. Instead, the documents highlighted confusion surrounding responsibilities, commitments, and verbal promises that were never fully clarified. One particular document immediately attracted attention. According to testimony, a major disagreement reportedly began after changes were made to a family-related project without everyone being fully informed in advance. The misunderstanding allegedly created frustration that continued growing privately for months. Josh was asked directly about the issue. I felt like decisions were being made too quickly, he explained calmly. I wanted everyone included before moving forward. Mama June's attorney responded quickly. My client never intended to exclude anyone. Circumstances changed rapidly and communication simply became difficult. The judge listened carefully while reviewing notes. As testimony continued, another surprising detail emerged. According to witnesses, several private family meetings had taken place long before legal action was ever considered. During those meetings, both sides reportedly attempted to resolve disagreements quietly without public attention. One witness described the meetings as emotional but respectful. People were frustrated, the witness explained, but nobody wanted the family destroyed. That statement changed the mood inside the courtroom noticeably. Until now, many outside observers viewed the situation as a dramatic battle filled with anger. But testimony increasingly revealed something far more human, a family struggling under years of public pressure and emotional misunderstandings. Still, tension remained close beneath the surface. Later in the afternoon, Mama June herself took the stand again. The courtroom became completely silent as she adjusted the microphone in front of her. Her attorney asked softly, "How has this situation affected you personally?" Mama June paused for several seconds before answering. "It's painful," she admitted quietly. "People online only see headlines. They don't see the private conversations, the tears, or the stress behind everything." Several people in the audience lowered their eyes. She continued carefully. I never wanted anyone in this family to feel unsupported. Sometimes mistakes happen because people are overwhelmed, not because they stop caring. Josh remained silent while listening. For the first time since proceedings began, the emotional divide between both sides seemed smaller. But the hearing soon shifted again when Josh's attorney introduced another witness, unexpectedly. This witness claimed to have attended one of the final private family meetings before the legal conflict became public. According to the testimony, emotions during that meeting became extremely intense after discussions about trust and future responsibilities reached a breaking point. Everyone was emotional, the witness explained. People felt unheard. The courtroom stayed silent. The witness then revealed that one family member reportedly suggested taking a temporary break from public projects altogether in hopes of reducing stress and rebuilding relationships privately. The idea, however, was never fully implemented. According to testimony, media attention and online speculation continued growing too quickly. The judge asked an important question. Was there ever a point when both sides believed reconciliation was impossible? The witness thought carefully before answering. No, the witness finally said. Even during the worst moments, people still hoped things could improve. That statement echoed throughout the courtroom. Even reporters stopped typing for a moment. As the afternoon continued, legal discussions focused more heavily on possible solutions rather than blame. Attorneys from both sides discussed mediation options, future communication agreements, and ways to reduce public tension moving forward. The judge appeared encouraged by the shift in tone. This court recognizes the emotional complexity of family disputes, he stated carefully. Resolution often requires honesty from all parties involved. Outside the courthouse, public opinion also seemed to shift. Many fans online began expressing sympathy for both Josh and Mama June rather than choosing sides completely. Some viewers commented that the hearings revealed how fame and constant public attention can slowly damage even strong family relationships. Late in the day, the judge announced that another hearing would take place the following week. During that session, both legal teams would reportedly discuss potential settlement possibilities before the court considered further action. The announcement immediately sparked new questions. Would the family finally reach peace? Or would another shocking revelation reopen old wounds again? As the session ended, Josh quietly stood near his table gathering papers. Across the courtroom, Mama June slowly closed her notebook and looked toward him briefly. This time, something unexpected happened. Josh gave a small nod. Mama June nodded back. The moment lasted only seconds, but several reporters noticed immediately. After days filled with tension, emotional testimony, and painful memories, the smallest sign of mutual understanding suddenly felt enormous. Outside the courthouse, rain finally began falling heavily as cameras flashed nonstop around both sides, leaving separately once again. Nobody spoke publicly, but deep down, everyone understood something important. The courtroom battle was no longer only about shocking secrets or bitter disagreements. It had become a story about whether a fractured family could somehow find a path forward before the damage became permanent.